So two, we have a forum, and so I call this meeting for JPS to order. The first set of business is item number 2 on the agenda, which is consideration of the minutes of January 9th, 2023 meeting. We have a second. Any additional conversation, discussion? With that, that passes. I'm sorry, all in favor? Say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, that passes. That closes item number 2. And opening item 3 on the agenda, shared comments for meeting and agenda organization. So we have lots to do. And we're going to try to do so in an effective and efficient manner. The agenda itself, for those who haven't been to one of our meetings, things to know. First is we have the public comments separated in 2 separate sections. The first section, which is coming up shortly, are public comments on the agenda items only. So we ask to keep those public comments to those items that we're going to discuss tonight. We're going to start with anyone in the room first, and then we will go to Zoom. Towards the end of the meeting, we're going to have a separate section where we're going to talk about public comments that pertain to anything within the jurisdiction of the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee. That's when you can have a comment on it. I ask them to keep those comments, though, please, to the end of the meeting. We do that so we're focused on the meeting at hand today and to make sure that we can get through this material in a focused way. With that, we'll go more comments on that for, one other comment. For those who went to the web, you may have seen that we didn't have a lot of support items posted on the web. That was a snafu on our end. Something that maybe you know probably. I've been kind of a stickler to make sure that we have that stuff at the committee level for people to look at. So I do apologize for that, but spoke to the county clerk's office, and they will have all that information posted tomorrow. So you'll be able to look at the resolutions that this committee is discussing tomorrow. Okay. Okay, with that, I'm closing item 3 on the agenda and opening for item 4, which is public comments on agenda items. Anyone in the room? Please come to the podium and take it in.
Dave Gustafson, 1820 County Road, II. Supervisor for District 28, as well as the state representative for the 55th State Assembly District, most of Northern Winnebago County. I'm actually here to speak on behalf of the resolution regarding the marijuana penalties. I think it goes along the lines of something that the state legislature is actually discussing. I think it may be a little premature to discuss it here at this time. I would say that if there was an ability to hold off on this until, let's say, kind of the fall era, when we could really start to listen to the legislation that's been regarding this, would be our best option. Please stay in contact with me as well as we go through this process. Just like the advisory referendum is technically defeated before it got to the ballot about marijuana being legalized within Wisconsin, I would say that please stay in contact. We are trying to work on solutions that actually will help us with forward issues with our statutes regarding marijuana and the application. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you taking it up and talking about it tonight.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, please. Come to the podium and state your name.
Jordan Gibson, sports meetings, Mr. Allen. I'd like to speak in favor of Act 7918. I definitely don't think that we should back Whether or not the state plans to act on the matter of marijuana legalization is irrelevant. If that's 9 months away, what we can do is we can do something here and now that at least changes the landscape of marijuana in Winnebago County. I think that it's been legal for a long time. The penalties have been too strict for a long time. Half the states, or most of the states in the country, have legalization, most some sort of medical marijuana legislation or allotments, and it seems pretty straightforward at this point. That this is the direction the whole country is going. To need to see whether we can make an effective policy, at least at our level. For whatever point the state does or does not act on it, I mean, the sooner the better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else within this room who would like to speak? Oh, please come to the podium and say your name.
Hi, Betsy Ellenberger. I am also a supervisor in District 7. I'm here just to ask, talk to you a little bit about 20 and 21. The items and those items is the community restructuring and perhaps maybe adding a per diem to it, or compensation or however you want to put it. But if you wouldn't mind, I think the resolution sign up for tonight, it would ask that when you do or when you decide to go forward with this, if you would please allow me to also be on the committee, if you would mind appointing me so that I can help you. I've been wanting to get my hands in and help out as much as I can. I know you guys were originally had this because of how it came to you guys from the board, and it's kind of in your jurisdiction, so to speak. So I know not on the committee, but I know your hands too. I'm looking at your agenda and I'm thinking, wow, but I'm not on this. Just kidding. But yeah, I realize you guys have been full with a lot of stuff, and I think it'd be prudent maybe to start this committee and that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
Are you going to be here when we discuss the items in front of these things?
I hope so.
Okay, sounds good. And I'll probably ask for your thoughts on this as well, since you are co-sponsor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments within the room? Oh, please come to the podium and state your name.
Good evening. My name is Tom Egan, 3017 State Road 116. I'm here tonight to talk on the same that he is. I'm in favor of going ahead and studying it all. I think it's great. It's already been put into place by the county board that I believe it's supposed to be 7 members that's supposed to be helped go on to this year. So that is also, but I'm not in favor of going ahead and putting the per diems into it. I think that should be a total separate thing. And I'll explain later on, I certainly will, because there's a lot of money difference that can be involved in. And when you do this, hopefully you'll look at all different counties to see how they do that. Because you can say if one person is on it, one person who's only got one committee, should that person get paid the same as what the 3? Or if we've got some that aren't on any committees, should that person be getting paid the same as well? So there's a lot of different factors that go into that. So
Are you also planning to stay until that point?
Sounds good.
Okay, any other comments in the room? Looks like we have a comment on Zoom. Rachel Dowling, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before I start, I'd also like to thank you for addressing the issue with the agenda tonight. I know personally I was looking for the resolutions on there, so I appreciate you for bringing that up. Rachel Dowling, Supervisor for District 1, 642 De Pierce Street in Menasha. I'm here to talk about item 12 to amend the Code of Ordinance regarding the possession of cannabis. I understand that this topic is followed by great passion from both sides, and I'm asking you to consider the financial strain and stacks of never-ending paperwork that this has created for our county and state. In 2018, there was 2,935 people arrested on marijuana charges in Winnebago County alone. Compared to the other Wisconsin counties, Winnebago County has one of the highest arrest rates. According to a study done by the UW-Madison, in just 1 year, Winnebago County spent an average of $1.2 million on marijuana arrests. Let me repeat that, in 1 year, $1.2 million. I'd also like to acknowledge the fact that we're behind on making this change. Almost a year ago, the city of Green Bay reduced their possession charges as well. Even though we still have penalties for possession, this is not stopping our Wisconsin residents who continue to cross state lines when purchasing cannabis, typically for medical purposes. They're looking for reputable sellers. I'm sure everyone has ideas on where the annual savings of $1.2 million could go, but I would like to suggest that we transfer the savings back to our taxpayers. I'm asking you for your support on this resolution. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone else on Zoom that would like to speak on any topic on the agenda? Okay, with that, we will close item 4 on the agenda and open item 5, which is communication shared by committee members. And I open up to the committee. Yes, Supervisor Pepper.
Yes, so on January 20th, the State Streets Committee did met at the courthouse. And we had meetings there present. And so we had this is actually a pretty lively conversation. Supervision and specifically extended supervision to the state of Wisconsin. And so what we can do to grant those issues. But we also had Jim from the bus speaking to talk about the amount of volunteer hours from the candidates. So, and the statistic was pretty staggering. 42,000 community service hours. And it's actually over. It's actually probably a lot. They just don't really understand. And general process also input their places around the
So I have to thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, so we're going to close item 5 on the agenda and open item number 6, which is consideration vote year-end budget overrun adjustment. For the clerk office.
This came as a surprise, and we appreciate you coming up. Carol, we felt the finance department wanted to. So basically, she does a good explanation at the bottom, but if you want to clarify anything, let me know. So end of year overrun.
The motion. We have a second? Second. Okay. Any additional comments? Yeah, I just ask how this. Just out of curiosity.
Well, you're in overrun for the rabies expense. When we get the money for all those animals with dog licenses, we only keep enough for the county to cover our daily expenses. The cost of the dog license program, purchasing tag, and we also pay for animal testing for rabies stuff. So we did those programs to count it all together. We thought we had read that $2,000 Humane Society. So that money had to be dispersed after we built that account. So that's the $3,310. The $4 overrun in my lodging. It's just, we have enough budgeted for that one. And then the other is an overrun for the, regular. We had meetings for longer, as you know, we had people on the board meetings, so we had more overtime and expenses there. So, but we did have extra money in publishing legal notices, so we would do that.
Any additional, questions or comments? Okay, with that, we're going to go. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That closes item number 7 on the agenda. It's the on board project. Hold on.
I'm, vacation. Seems only take vacations to go help us get through the problems and actually down that for themselves. So I'll talk about that. Not much to really update on more. We got the we'll see what's going on. Again, we're going to try to get this done as fast as possible. I know the sheriff's department's been more than patient with us, held up in the evidence locker for some time. We'll probably be already had a shovel in down. So I wish I had a more update for you, and we're hoping the supply chains and come around. We get some decent bids on this, and hopefully we can get working as soon as possible.
Do you have an idea of the timeline?
That's the hard thing. I mean, when I'm looking at projects around town, they get started with the day-to-day money shop. For windows to come in. So I don't have an idea. I want to give you a number that's giving you a. I do know that we're doing this fast.
Is it mostly a supply chain issue?
I think it's maybe a bidding process. I think the architects finally got it and they figured it out. No, our last one after the architectural there's a lot of moving parts of them, a lot of projects to be done.
So I know when we talked about this project initially through, there was concerns about cost overruns, and I know that we probably plan to have this operational probably sooner than what we are. Have we had any thoughts about how we're going to handle future financial issues as a result of this now? Hoping is smoothly thought or not yet?
Water and graduate is probably something that we're in relationship. I think this project will pay for itself eventually, simply by the cost of having the historic things and
I'm just saying the short term.
We just need to be here, and they understand that my budget is 1.5.
Okay.
So they understand that.
But in the interim, we're going to have to improve additional expenses for constructing all over the place and utilizing, backup solutions, probably longer than what we anticipated.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I assume now we're going to have stuff. That additional.
I think that figure that out.
Okay.
So that.
So we're not concerned. Okay.
What we have in terms of, we spent more on building costs than what I was about to put out. Hopefully, we're going to top it. I'm just wondering when you would say that maybe we need to put this.
Trying to get a post that.
I would say in the budget process, the budget for this year was budgeted as what we did. We were not planning on any money until next month. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? comments?
Okay, just keep it brief at all. Overdoses for January.
Are you looking for attendance for 2022? Two hundred.
And next meeting, we're gonna have, more conversation.
I would say as long as you keep an eye on this, I think that we're going to be keeping an eye on this mental health. Our suicide numbers are higher than we would like. So if we're tracking that, I would say that the other two is mental health, we're tracking suicides too. If we go with our struggling these numbers, which last year, where overdoses went down to 2, I believe. And we are 2 and 2. Again,
Okay, any additional? No? Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. That does close item number 8, the agenda. Moving to item number 9, which is the supplemental housing project update. Robert.
Project 980 is out. That is the one that was over there. So as I mentioned at the board meeting, Steve Oshkosh, went through their council, they dropped this from 11 down to 8. We still think that that's an okay number, right, Chair?
Yeah.
All right, I would like to live a room.
How many do we have? Kind of in the lanes that were.
We have, one that has asked for release, a petition already been granted here, for us to be able to fund the project. We are telling the courts that this is this. So hopefully we'll continue to be patient with us on that. And then there's one more petition outside of that. So it's 2 in the trailer, 1 we're trying to get placed, and then 1 is petitioning.
The trailer only, well, I thought the trailer had this.
2 in there.
Okay, so this is an addition to it.
So there are 2 more, so there's.
For a total of 4.
Attention.
Well, 2 for sure.
2, no, 3 for sure.
I'm sorry, 2 for sure.
Right. With a 4th petition.
And the 140-day time frame doesn't start until petition is actually filed. The state has given us a heads up, and there may be someone coming out in the next few months.
Thanks for all the things. Thanks again.
I appreciate it. I said at the beginning, this is not a project to support, but to understand.
Any other questions? Supervisor Isaac?
Yeah, this is, from the Oshkosh Examiner, giving us the, rendition of what the, housing for longevity will be.
Okay.
8 microunits is what we're looking to do. 8 microunits, so you never have to worry about the compatibility of the 980s. We want to be cognizant of the fact that there may be a female 980 in the future. Make sure that every unit was ADA compliant. But again, we're not trying to build Taj Mahals here. Yes. That's something we can do.
You put on a few words from the engineering, because I think there are a lot of discussion running right now that this is this project. Thank you for saying not as much Mahal. I'm just wondering if there's any way for people to put out something of a public statement, because the people that have engaged with me are not understanding that this really is an obligation. And that we will pay, it's like we will pay money to the offender it can go to. So I was wondering if you could keep the county or somebody to put that kind of. Yeah, there really is a misunderstanding.
I think that's appropriate. I mean, this is something that we're mandated to do. We don't really have a choice. It's their civilities that are being, I guess, trampled on, if you will. I even hate to say that word. So we're the ones that can sue for the fine. That being said, I'm unaware of any county that has actually issued that fine. We were seeing that close and got ordered to build a facility. But I hear that, and I think it's probably wise to revisit that. It is what we call the best, worst place you can build this in a county. It really is the best worst option out there. I think the sheriff would agree with that. I mean, he was out in the town of Rushford. When we didn't even know that the state was helping to purchase that house. We found out that the state sometimes works around us to look for their own spaces, these people, which is why we went to Captain and talk to legislation medicine and make sure that we want guarantees that since we're building this, that this is where we're going to go. So I think we got a lot of people willing to do. There are a lot of other counties that are dealing with the situation right now. There's other resolutions and reimbursing for the 980 projects. Personally, I'm a fan of it. The state will reimburse that through rent. But there's a lot of other counties that are in the same situation that are now dealing with the first one. And it's hard to understand where you can find the location that fits within the boundaries of what we do.
And remind me, what is the potential fine for the $1,200? $1,100 per day. Per person.
Because we have to remember, these people have served their sentence. They have served the sentence that was given to them, and then they go to sandwich. And when they get to sandwich, the bar is not high. And I'm not trying to shake confidence here, but I believe it's less than 50% chance to offend. And if they think there's a less than a 50% chance to re-offend, then they petition and grant them the supervised release. And then it is up to the county to find a place to house them. And it's our responsibility to do that.
And someone had asked me, didn't know how to answer, how long is that responsibility once they're in that house?
Well, that can be determined by the state, and it can be anywhere from right release. There are some people that go from sandwich, no supervision. And then there's one there for 3 years. And the sheriff has talked about this one as this person's really been a model citizen, but the state had a 3-year agreement. If our VA wanted to, they could overturn that. You can get a space free up. But it could be indefinite. And when these people go there and say, I don't want to go, they could sit there until they're passing, which the state would be responsible for not only the rent, but to cover all the utilities.
Correct in remembering that the people that are going to this house without supervision, they go to the doctor, they are not committed to.
That's correct from my understanding. If there's somebody there for 2 years and they may be allowed to come up and roll, right?
There are typically 72 to 74 pools of time release, and then on a case-by-case basis, the state will say, well, you have to comply with 50 to 60 to 70 of the rules. But frankly, there seems to be more restrictions in that setting than perhaps even a sandwich. But yes, at least initially for the first year, if they go to doctor's appointments, if there's situations going to the grocery store, they're always accompanied by a provision. And they have the model.
That would be concerning. That is not understood. Like people can concern
Supervisor Isaac.
Yeah, I would like to share, my understanding of the 980 statute. The 980 statute, is imposing upon the liberty of individuals in terms of time. And these restrictions which we are, working with is to keep the statute not legal. Because if it's violated, then but for the non-statute, individual is returned to society. However, the question of the fitness of the individual needs to be validated. And therefore, we go to the statute.
Supervisor Dodd. I was gonna say, and the time delay on that is quite a bit. I mean, these people were sentenced 20 years ago, so even if we fixed sentencing today, even if we fixed how we deem some of the 980 today, those effects won't find us for probably another 20 years. There's a big mess.
It's something like the state changes the statutes. We feel like many of them.
Provide housing and net, if that was the case.
We have other uses
Absolutely.
if there are. So at what point do you think it would make sense for another update on this?
I can let you know, if we get some bids in, maybe some updates.
Yeah, I think we'd like to keep this going, this conversation on that, so we can. Thank you so much, appreciate it. Okay, with that, we're going to close item 9 and move to item 10, which is consideration vote authorizing Winnebago County to enter into an settlement agreement with CVS Walgreens, Walmart, Viva, and Allergan. Corporation Counsel, Mariana.
Thank you for, entertaining this, Chairman Stafford. I have been notified, all along that there are various settlements coming up. As you all know, there was a huge settlement last year with the 3 big distributors and Johnson & Johnson for over $26 billion. And I might add that in 2022, in connection with that, those settlements, Winnebago County received over $1 million in connection with those settlements. So fast forward to 2023, there are proposed nationwide settlements with those 3 pharmacies and the 2 pharmaceutical manufacturers, Stephen and Allergan. When I was notified by the National Council, which all super board agreed to basically go with the National Council, they indicated that it was important and they needed to have an answer by March as to whether the counties across the state wanted to go forward with it. I had asked Supervisor Stafford if he would be so kind to put this on the agenda, and he agreed. So what we are asking for is basically to see if the North Committee would agree that Winnebago County be a participating subdivision and have the opportunity to participate in the benefits associated with the settlement agreement. Now, in terms of numbers, I wanted to get more specifics. I've been reaching out. We don't have specifics other than Teva is to pay up to $3.34 billion over 13 years and to provide either $1.2 billion of its generic version of the drug Narcan over 10 years or an agreed upon cash equivalent over 13 years. That's Teva. Allergan is to pay up to $2.02 billion over 7 years. CVS is to pay up to $4.90 billion over 10 years. Walgreens to pay up to $5.52 billion over 15 years, and Walmart to pay up to $2.74 billion in 2023. And again, these figures are net amounts attributable to prior settlements and include attorney fees, just so you don't get surprised by these numbers. The other piece is these proposed settlements also contain injunctive relief governing opioid marketing and sales and distribution and dispensing practices. So I was able to get that much information. But again, given the time frame here, and based on those numbers, the fiscal note was able to be attached, which basically said these settlements will produce revenue to the county over a period of years in amounts which are not yet determined, because again, we don't have the specifics. But based on comparisons with previous settlements involving distributors, annual payments could be in the range of $167,000 to $315,000 per year over a 10-year period. And then if that came through, obviously this revenue will have to be placed in an opioid abatement account so that it's not, commingled with any types of other funds. So that's the information I have to give.
And one thing that we're voting on is the resolution to accept basically the first step in this process that would then go to the board for board approval.
Absolutely. Actually, we are also going in front of Personnel and Finance
Okay.
on Wednesday.
Oh,
Because again, we want to be transparent and there's a money component to this. But it would be basically the county board would look at your vote, would look at P&S vote and say yes or no as to yes, you should execute these settlement agreements. Yes, you should agree, we have no problem with the participation agreement, which we do not have yet, which I've been trying to get. And then also, yes, we should agree that the county executive should sign off on this settlement. But again, there's so much at stake here, given the fact that we need to have it by March and it's already February, time is guessing for that way. I wanted it to go forward. I did not want to wait until March because I was working to miss out on an opportunity.
so I'm going to make a motion to approve authorizing Winnebago County to enter into opioid settlement agreements with CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Teva, and Allergen. We have a second. Okay, any additional conversation or discussion?
I'm definitely in favor of this, but is there, there's always just that thought that I have in the back. Is there a possibility that some of these, like, for instance, or Origin, they put bankruptcy, is that a possibility?
Yes, it could be a possibility. I don't know the answer to that. I can certainly speak to the National Council.
But we assume we get an station, less likely.
Any additional?
Settlement,
I don't think that's necessary. We can certainly listen to the Board of Health, but I don't want to, if we're going to P&L, I don't see how pushing this out to Board of Health, that might complicate matters. The Judiciary clearly should have a say. I believe P&F should have a say. We can certainly speak with the Board of Health director. But in my opinion, I don't think we need to do that. But I just don't want to jeopardize missing the deadline. I'm very conscious of deadlines.
For executive.
Yeah, I just want to say, Doug's very familiar with this. His team actually is, you asked for an update on ad hoc task force, opioid abatement, which I'm planning on getting on everyone's desk tomorrow. But our health department has actually been a pretty big driver in those summits. They've been very involved. Our health department, showed other counties, we did a whole toolkit on how to do a needs assessment, for their counties to look at this individually. So they've been very involved with the process. I've used their staff many times in our summits. They've helped us out in the task force quite a bit. So they're very aware and very supportive of what we need to do.
Right, okay. All right, so, with that, we're going to, ask for a vote, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That closes, item 10, item 11. Great, update from Corporation Council.
So let's, what I want to do is tell you first, we can hold significant term time to send on recodification. The first phase of recodification is complete. Hallelujah. Myself, along with Captain Shear, Assistant Counsel, Paralegal, together with Chairman Egan and County Executive Table, and Director of Administration Pollard and Executive Assistant Holmberg, we have 27 department heads to go through the county code. And we should receive the proof back by mid-April. The next stage will be, again, meeting with the 27 department heads again, and the chairman of each committee to go through the proofs. So, again, there's going to be 27 meetings, but we're going to have the chairmen of each committee. Well, there's been a lot of work. It's been certainly an aggressive schedule because we were having meetings left and right. And so, from the county executive, from the county board chair, but we know it's really important that we're trying to get done. I think it's doable. I think we can get it done by the end of the year in terms of assuming the board approval. But again, we want to have input. That's why we're having the chairs as well as the department heads for the next one.
And I would just encourage having those feedback groups as soon as possible. I think that will help. If it comes. You know, and when I mean like, because this will go to the board for approval. Having some sessions with the board after all that might be like to help people's feedback. Earlier in the process.
It's a massive, I mean, right now we have 912 pages. So again, and obviously when we were meeting with the various department heads, they would, be responsible for their section. But yeah, I think we really want to have a dialogue so people can say, okay, this is the product.
Well, and the reality is that you will have 36 supervisors who have very specific opinions on it. And I just don't know how it works. And it's good, that's good, right? But I would hate for this thing to go, like, what am I doing? I'm right at this. We all have various, we have opinions. It's gonna go along. So anything that we could, I don't know, I don't have any ideas other than I hope that we discuss how we can help mitigate that. So this isn't like February, going into this. Yeah, right. When you go at past April, then you have potentially a whole new body. So. County executive.
If I could, just an update. Round one was all about easy cleanups. For instance, our town code still listed with Calvin Ash. It's been Fox Crossing for quite some time. It's still listed Highway 45 as 110 and hasn't been that for quite some time. So this is the first recodification that the county has gone through since 1982. Before the process, there was 74, 12 different years. 12 different PDFs that you had to download to look at our county code as a whole. So step one was simply just clerical, fixing commas, making sure all the text was right, and it was a searchable document. To be very clear, if Tom wasn't in the room, I was in the room, we made sure that there was an elected official at all times, making sure that all it was commas and little adjustments. Going forward, as we go to committees, there will be no changes made to the code that comes before you that will not still be listed with the red line through.
So everything will be listed.
So everything will be red line. There is not a single change that we're going to do to show to anybody on the process. And when committee, when chair people come in, we'll talk with department heads on things that we want to suggest.
Or maybe a strike, so you'll see the red line strike,
Right.
and you'll see a change with the white, so you'll know what is the suggested.
So that's why I'm particularly. Like I stated, quite a few changes, the rules, and a lot of them were, there was some, and there was a lot of discussion with that. So that's why, even with the red line, as soon as you get this to the county board in general, once you have that 30 piece.
And just to be, I've been driving really hard on this process. I think Mary Ann would not disagree with that. But I'm interested in getting it right. So if it takes us longer, it'll take us longer. But without a sense of urgency, change doesn't seem to happen. So,
Okay, any other comments, questions? No, now. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's really sure.
Certification.
Yeah.
And that was very, very time consuming. Okay. We are also now, I went to my first meeting today. So, yes, I will be standing in for, Director of Administration Caller, taking over that responsibility. The jury trial scheduled for tomorrow in our mental commitment. Public defender brought that request, and now it is a court vote. It is in front of the judge. In terms of, we are also crafting an appellate brief that's due later this week. We have already filed one appellate brief in 2023. There are 4 additional briefs in this spring. We have had numerous open record requests over the last couple of weeks involving various departments, ranging from the sheriff, to the register of deeds, to the board chair. So that's keeping us busy as well. I had asked the clerk just to get an idea as to the number of cases we actually handled in 2022. And based on the information I received today, we handled 430 mental commitment cases. Now, some of those involve brand new commitments, 3-party petitions, expansions. There were, of those 420, there were some settled. So we have 430 mental commitments. This is for 2022. We've had 20 juvenile guardianships. We have had 42 guardianships and protected placements. We had 39 CHIPS cases, and we had 18 termination of parental rights cases.
How does that compare to last year?
I believe the mentals are telling you that. Generally, the CHIPS cases have been declining. When I first started, probably 15 years ago, those numbers were in the hundreds. So the CHIPS cases have gone way down. I would say the complexity has increased. In other words, you're not seeing dirty house cases as much as you had perhaps in the past. There are more issues involving mental situations, abusive situations. And then in 2022, there were 7 briefs filed by our office. All of those cases, all of those cases, court came back and affirmed the decision of the circuit court. We did 2 responses to petitions for review to the Supreme Court. So we have that. This is in 2022. A lot of my time in 2022 was spent in the Neighborhood Investment Fund grant. This was a grant, that came through. There were a lot of hoops that the state wanted us to go through. First, there was a concern by the state that our office gave them too much information, even though they were providing over 20 million dollars to Winnebago County. So the state directed us to reduce our submission to 1,200 characters, meaning letters. 1,200 letters. So we complied, and then the state came back and said, no, I think we need more information. So the bottom line is they finally approved what our initial submission was, and we received a check in the mail. Right? Right.
Oh, so we have that. Yes. We have the check. The check. Still have to be distributed.
We had to check, but we also had to go through another mandatory training. So we have some other things, all kinds of, that we have to do with the grantees before we can issue them all that.
I know there are a lot of board members that have questions on that piece. Yeah, it might be good at some point to do an update before. Just on that during county executive. Oh, okay.
Supervisor Eisen asked specifically for one in particular, and I'm writing up a memo on the entire process.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
In 2022, we were also doing CPS trainings, Child Protective Service trainings. There were trainings involving human rights petitions. We had some new worker orientations. Other big projects, as you know, in 2022 involved Park Council moving out of Oregon into the CAB building. That was a big project. The other thing we need to know is that we have some new staff coming on board. Beth Mann, who has been assistant Park Council for almost 5 years, who is the new corporation counsel for Greenville County. So kudos to him. This is wonderful news for them, and we're miss him, but wish him well. Hannah Coffey, who is a former public defender, who also has her own practice, will be replacing Jeff. Jeff's paralegal has also taken a job in the pharmaceutical field, so we have to replace Jeff's paralegal, and we found someone to replace that paralegal. So we are going to be doing, we're very fortunate onboarding the new staff. And then finally, in terms of legislation, and I know I've spoken with some of you, I just want to make sure that you're all aware that Park Council's job is to draft operative language for a legally enforceable result. So we do not vet the whereas clauses, just so, and I think most of the board knows that, but, in terms of, all of the whereas clauses, we do not vet them. We just vet them now, therefore, to make sure that it's, again, a legally operative result. And that's all I have to tell you, folks.
You see confusion with that with other board members?
Well, I don't want other board members to think that, well, if Park Council has looked at this resolution, then it's legally, it's fine. And again, I don't want them to be confused that we have said that every whereas statement is accurate, because we don't have the time to look at all of the whereas.
Okay. Great.
That's it.
All right. Since were there any questions for Corporation Council? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we're going to close item 11 and open item number 12, which is consideration vote ordinance. Amend the county code, the code of ordinance for Winnebago County regarding the possession of marijuana and or cannabis. Supervisor Brian Duffy, just a note before we start. I forgot to mention this. How we do things is we have the person introduce the topic. So in this case, it's an ordinance. And then, so the committee itself can understand what we're going to put a motion towards. Okay, so once in this case, Brian, I'm sorry, Supervisor Deputy, will talk about it. I will then ask for a motion to formally consider it. Okay, just so everyone's following the path here. So with that, I will ask Supervisor Deputy to introduce this.
So, my fellow supervisors that, it's time. It's time, for us to, get along with, the changes that's happening, the sweeping changes that's happening throughout the United States. And not just that, but also, in, not just around the United States, but our states that are bordering, the state of Wisconsin. And everyone here that is a supervisor, we are a firm believer in local government. This is where the changes happen. Changes start at the bottom and then it goes up. Changes don't start from the top down. It's best starting from the bottom up. And we are now being surrounded, we're putting ourselves into a corner of people that are actually creating what was essentially medical tourism in a way. We see billboards on Highway 41 saying, head on up to the state of Michigan to go to a dispensary. It's time for us to start making changes here with Winnebago County. I know that we have the state legislature has now said that they are actually going to be talking about some form of legalization. And we had the state representative Michael Straw, who was speaking at the legislative meeting not too long ago. He was talking about the different ideas that they had in regards to some form of state legalization. So, furthermore, we also have verbiage in our county code in existence for those who are deemed with other functions of cannabis. And in fact, that's exactly what I used for the verbiage in regards to applying that exception for THC in cannabis. I essentially took that same exception for the adult case and applied it to for marijuana, cannabis, and THC over. We're starting to see other localities such as the city of Cross and the city of Appleton all reduce their penalties for THC and cannabis, whether it be recreation. And so it's I know that there's some people that wish that the state makes this decision, but again, so it's actually us. So if people do have issues in regards to this, I ask the supervisors to go through the amendment process. Introduce an amendment, if it gets seconded, and we discuss it, and we vote on it, and then we vote on the whole ordinance. Or you could choose not to amend it at all. That's it. But I certainly do not want a specific vote of this. Let's if you have issues in regards to this, go through the amendment process, and then we'll do it that way. But if you look at the statistics right now in regards to cannabis possession over the last 5 years, that the district provided for all of us, you can see that has went down significantly, while the more stronger addictive substances such as meth and heroin, other opioid addictions have gone up. And in a 2019 study by Harvard Health, it has shown that the states that have some sort of legalized cannabis, they're starting to see a much lower rate of opioid prescriptions. So it has shown that there has been there actually has been some evidence there of some correlation in regards to those that have access to cannabis. They won't need to go to their doctors to get prescription substances that could turn into something, a lot worse down the road. So, just a couple of days ago, I sat down with someone in my district who's a Marine Corps veteran. And he uses it for very sparingly, but every now and then he uses it for chronic pain, or in times where he's just simply having a bad day, sometimes to help him sleep. And one thing that was brought up is that those that use medical cannabis, one big demographic that we often overlook is veterans. Veterans are the ones that have fought and served for our country are the ones that are using medical cannabis. And it's wrong for us to incarcerate them. I just think that it's time for us to make a change here at the county level. And with that, I move to amend Winnebago County General Code sections 9.174 and 9.184 related to the possession of marijuana and or cannabis and THC paraphernalia.
Do we have a second?
Right, I agree with you. I don't think that we do really good. I still have to for some reason. And I know this isn't really a process. And if the state does not come back with an agreement at some point before, in my opinion, in August, if they don't come back to us, we're going to be involved in building. But until then, I want to wait and see, because there could be some redundancies where I think more will be. If they don't do that, I think we'll have to say, hey, come to an agreement. But I'm going to respect the assignment, which is for now, and I would move that we temporarily. So we can't do it yet. We have to have a second on because then you can figure amendments, which would be postponed to a certain time. Yes. But we would first need a second. So since we're going to do that, I will second Supervisor Deputy's motion. And now we're in discussion, and I'm going to put the floor to you. Right. And I'm just going to I agree. This is taxpayer service for the market that I want, especially with the rise over this. We've seen with other for me, I just want to wait for the process perspective. I know this is a process perspective of what. And then I'll go to the office, and we should go on. And we'll be talking about it. Look, if you're not going to do this, what I come to do. You'd like to do it. My. Okay, are you putting a motion on the floor? Yes. Okay, and what is this motion? It's postponed until August. The August. Okay. Do we have a second on that motion? Supervisor Hanson has seconded that motion. Discussion, Supervisor Isaac.
Well, I would, you're addressing the motion. So I can't,
Do you have anything on that?
relate to the substance of the, motion of the resolution. That's correct. I don't have a comment with respect to that. However, I would say that, I would choose to bring the sheriff up and to have his, input with respect to the residential ordinance that we presented.
So I'm going to take that. I do want to hear from Sheriff Motz, and it's relevant for me because it will depend on what I hear on how I'm going to answer to the motion of postponing until August. So if I could please invite Sheriff Motz up.
Sure. As far as the resolution is concerned, the currently the fine amount is $389,050. That includes all of the court costs associated with it. If it's reduced to $1, it changes to $115.76. It's not just $1. All of those assessments are set by the state, not by us. Also, I guess one of my concerns would be, I sent the video of what 28 grams looks like, which this is 25 grams, and that's a substantial amount from my perspective. 28 grams is enough for 60 joints or 90 bowls. So you get into what we would consider much more than personal use and more than just sharing with a friend. So, and then in respect to the other video that I sent, there are concerns about, and those concerns are being realized in the states that have legalized marijuana. If you watch that video, just because you legalize marijuana does not stop the illegal marijuana market. As a matter of fact, it actually boosted it. If you, so one of the current growers said he has made no money, no profit in his legal grow, but when you multiply his $800,000 in the illegal grow, it's $33 million. So it doesn't stop the illegal grows and illegal distribution of marijuana. So that's more off of what this resolution is, but I have concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. Any additional discussion on postponing this resolution for consideration to the say of August? Yes, which is the first Monday of August. That's what I do not want to postpone.
No, you're, that's one to a certain time, yes, and I, if the statement comes to the point, I don't do that.
Let me ask you a question. In your conversation with Representative Eskison, did he indicate, he's here, but did he indicate when this would be potentially in the session?
He said, I was looking at it. One of them said that there's a chance it comes to standalone. I was under the impression that the budget is probably, but again, I didn't decide to change them. So he said August, the fall, technically the fall, but I wanted to do those in August. And so that was the role of the board. So probably the fall, but I like to do.
We don't necessarily make my sentence is not necessarily not supportable. I really want to see what management does. This is the laser focus and quality.
No, I mean, I don't want to repeat myself. I understand, what all the supervisors here are saying. I think it's, but I'm very much a pioneer and, part of me, really wants to push the state. And I think that it's time for us to act now instead of later.
Okay. Still on the vote. All right, we're gonna call for no more discussion. I'm gonna call for a vote. This is the motion is just to reiterate. Motion is to delay this. I'm sorry, to postpone this resolution to the August JPS meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
One nay. The motion passes. Okay. That closes item 12. Opening item 13, consideration vote. Purchasing units for law enforcement. This is introduced by Supervisor Colin Hanson. Same as the last one. I'm going to give Supervisor Hanson an opportunity to introduce this resolution. This is something that we had talked about before, so it cannot be moved for anyone. At which time he's done introducing it, he will ask for a motion to be considered. So with that, I will give the floor to Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing I was actually remiss in including is the fact that one of the catalysts or another catalyst for the introduction of this, but and I failed to include this news article. Considering and drafting that there was a situation in New Jersey where an 11 officers and sheriff might be able to expand a little bit more on that. I can't find a lot about it. 11 officers are up to what? So, I think it is important to bring this forward, not only for the safety of officers, like the one in Nashville that was on its way here and was exposed, but it also helps the public. Because they may not know what substance they have, they may not know how much fentanyl or if fentanyl is included. So I think this is something that we should really move forward on. And with that, then may I introduce the resolution? I am asking for a motion to authorize the purchase of one TMARC handheld analyzer and two TMARC solution kit for the Sheriff's Department to be funded from the opioid abatement account.
Wait a second. Okay, wait a second. Any discussion? Yes, Supervisor.
This, project started, really with the real time for this, from the personality. This is something that we put for, this is something that we really wanted to get done. And I really would like to thank him for his effort in this, and I know that this is something that is. And we decided to go with one, just to kind of do as a semi-pilot program, if you will, and then we can move forward if you want to do some type of review. So again, were a couple of questions about the opioid big. It's really good. Safe. Let me say that the corrections, so in an area where, you know, we see kind of opioids getting stronger, it's very important that we have these.
Yes, yeah, so I'm sure this is probably mentioned in the paperwork. What's the overall?
This covers a year, with the 5 years subscription. But this investment is years and anything else, but do you have
I'd like to introduce Jeremiah Mitchell. So when I quote here's the amount of income, and Jeremiah is much more versed in use of TrueNarc. I stated this has a 5-year warranty with it. Obviously, it will last longer than the 5 years, but I don't know what your experience has brought on that. These can be yours.
Right. Please report. Thanks.
Well, my name is Jeremiah. So the sheriff said I'm a private director for the Winnebago again. And I just want to make sure that answer the questions posed. So if you mind doing that, I can.
Yeah, the overall lifespan.
So I think the best answer is that the lifespan of any kind of equipment will be used in a lot of things. I believe it's spoken about. And I don't know the original actual resolution, however, with the 5-year warranty for the company.
The budget should be covered with the should have been wrong with it, but would be, there's a piece of electronic technology, so battery life, and CPU issue. Would be probably the best answer I could probably give you, very much, which I don't, is minimum cost. And I would fully support purchasing a 5-year warranty because it is, you know, not an inexpensive device, but it is a very competitive device. So I'll try using them. You know, the last time we were obviously with lifespan stations.
So you have practical real world experience with this. What is your experience with it? Do you find that
I do. I think that some of the conversations I'm hearing discussed in the room is some of the concerns that are involuntary or unanticipated and unwanted exposures to unidentified substances or substances such as fentanyl, which is very dangerous, highly addictive, and potentially lethal substance. That the true mark gives an officer or an agency, like the sheriff's office, for example, the ability to be able to test a field test, and it's not scientific, like a crime lab certified test, but to be able to test it without actually manipulating the substance itself. So, for example, if there was a baby of non-identified white coat that was located or seized during an investigation, that you would be able to conduct a field test on that without having to open the baby and actually handle the white powder or the powdered substance or whatever the substance was in the baby. That be able to use the technology and the equipment to be able to basically, for lack of a better term, see through a plastic bag without having to manipulate that, thus decreasing the potential exposures to the officer who found it in his field test. So, you know, a common way of finding drugs, whether it be in a residential vehicle or a person, or however that case could be, when they're legally seized, is to open the bag. And the current field tests that are used most often are small pouches with chemical handles inside. You place a small amount of substance inside the pouch, and you would pop the handles in series as the officer is trained to do it. The key thing to note there, I think, in part of the conversation about this particular unit, is that you have to handle the substance from container to field test, and that transfer from point A to point B increases the opportunity for an involuntary exposure. Whereas this device may be able to put a plastic baggie, be able to analyze and be able to tell what the substance is, and adopt that for the presumptive field test without actually having to handle the substance. Particularly not fentanyl or cocaine or crack cocaine or methamphetamine, all those would be the fact.
We're also asking for two more solution kits. I know there's one for you for okay, if you can explain to them as well.
Absolutely. So the unit itself, as an example, this is the true mark of a scientific device that is investigated. There's two different types of tests that can be performed. One is called a direct scan. The second variety of tests is an H-type test, which is basically for substances of an opaque or non-reflective. So, the example I would use is solid heroin. Solid heroin tends to be photographic manipulated or in some instances black, and the direct scan would be appropriate just for the mechanism of the device. Those who would just place a small amount of that substance into a solution, and then there's a stick that comes with it. I don't know if there's anything for a lot, I just brought the device itself to show it to the community. But basically, it would dissolve into the liquid that would dry on the stick, basically, and that's what it's going to do. So there's two varieties, direct scan and H. So the solution that I believe is in the resolution is for those liquid ampules that will facilitate using for tests or the processes that the direct scan is. The device itself is an electronic device. like any piece of electronics. And officers will receive training on how to properly utilize it, and then, say that for plastic values, literally push of a button and place this on the baggie, and it would go through a process, say analyzing, and then it would literally pop up on the screen for what it is. It would say methamphetamine or cocaine or fentanyl or heroin or baking soda.
Does it have to touch the bag?
Or you want to still proximity to.
Have you seen false reads from this event?
So it's important to note that anything that sparks court admissibility goes to the state. As far as court admissibility, so it goes on to the proof test. However, like I said, it does, mitigate the officer or an investigator or an evidence clerk's necessity of having physical handle the proof test. So as far as, what my experience is, whether it increases officer safety, I would concur with that, and I think that the device is particularly useful for assisting and facilitating the identification of substances when they weren't previously identified. Relatively easy for to be able to say, we know this is cocaine and we test it for cocaine and it turns out to be cocaine, whereas we found the substance, we don't know what it is. We have no pre-existing information on what it might be, or this be able to utilize by a direct scan or by a beach type test to determine what it is. And it may be something that looks like cocaine, but it's actually not. Well, now we know. And obviously, handling procedures will change after that without having to actually touch what would have been or any other type of list.
It is also my understanding, and to clarify, so that everyone knows, that this price is the unit this price is also includes all the training.
I believe so, yes.
Supervisor, how effective is the ground field? I don't know if you've done that, but your experience, how
I find the concept of the device and having a field test, and obviously this is the device that I have a personal experience with. It's effective. I believe that multiple police departments, sheriff's departments across the state can purchase these devices for this very similar reason. Increasing officer safety, substances are found in a secure jail facility, control function. Be able to have this device handy and rather than have to transport it back to a department or any other way to handle it. I think that I would concur that it's been effective when used appropriately in the right circumstances. We have taken it to scenes where evidence has been located and been able to determine, well, this appears like it could be a controlled substance, be able to determine what it is, and it turns out it's just a bag of baking soda. It's a bag of baking soda. Or it turns out that hey, this is labeled as something, and it says baking soda. I'm just using baking soda as a perfect example, but baking soda or nestetol or whatever kind of substance it might be labeled as, utilize a tool like this and say, this is actually fentanyl, or this is actually cocaine, or no, this is actually evidence which gets seized and processed.
I was going to address that issue on how would you be using it. It's one item for a county of 80,000 residents located distance. It was brought into the field if there's a question that's raised in regards to that.
So as far as the deployment goes, I'm not talking about my personal experiences. I wouldn't want to presume how it would be deployed at the sheriff's office, but because I certainly, would be able to facilitate that and help, help whenever we requested. But as far as the deployment as a departmental level goes, whether it would be stored at the jail or patrol supervisor, the one nice thing I can speak towards is its transportability. That it could be brought anywhere in town as long as somebody has possession. But the key thing being is it can't be utilized unless somebody has it. So I would support, the field utilization of this.
The other counties that we partner with in the drug unit of such a matter?
So the drug unit, obviously being from the four counties, Winnebago, this particular device that I'm holding is Fox Crossing Systems. I don't know what happens if PD has a unit. I'm not sure if the sheriff's office is, maybe it should be going to become more readily available, as far as that goes. And it's as far as it's.
So this is a Winnebago County contribution to the drug units,
Well, I think the device we're speaking about is for the sheriff's office. It is. It will, as far as deployment goes, I think it's more appropriate for sheriff's office. It will remain in our patrol supervisor vehicle. It'll be available to any agency within the area. Also available in our jail. Oftentimes we take drugs out of people that come into jail wherever they're hiding them with their imagination. But this will also allow us to look for withdrawal symptoms, whatever it might be, if we identify in the jail setting what the substance is, it can assist us in their processing and keeping them safe while they're here. But it will be in a supervisory vehicle, available to a jail, available to any of the PDs in the area.
Supervisor Hanson.
Just to bolster what, Special Agent Winter said, Fox Crossing just acquired two, so that would be one of them. And the city of Menasha also has one, so getting one for the sheriff's department, I think it definitely makes sense because the local municipalities are already moving forward.
So a question I have, the office responses is we have a fiscal month here that this will, reduce the funds in the opioid abatement account by $92,000. You just comment on that just a little bit? Yeah, so that's the settlement fund, right? So I spoke at length with another. And he said, yes, it's possible. And that gives something changes where I know that we do some use the tax program. If that changes, then it would be the company. So right now, the goal is to make it out of the seven. Not because if we carry it up to the public, because my question is, do you have funds in this account?
We do. And we just specify that, however it comes out on things important. This is something I actually looked quite heavily if we could just buy this, buy the authority, just get it, because I think we need to get it in the sheriff's hands ASAP. Just not able to go agreement on the fact that I had the authority to buy it and I don't consider that. That being said, the opioid abatement funds, how we do it is it's fine by me. If you want to do it in the general fund, that's fine by me. If you want to do it on a transfer. The idea between the opioid settlement funds is last year in the 2022 budget, we had 5 full-time positions. So the idea was to put the heavy upfront some of the money that we have off to the side so to fund that program as long as it can. Because as we go on in the future, those amounts that we give will be less and less. That being said, we do have another 20 billion hopefully the settlement goes through. And I've also talked to the state at great length, making grants available for these units out of their 30% of the grants. So I think I completely agree with getting one unit and the resolution we have as soon as possible, whether it comes from the opioid funds or whether it comes from the general fund. And I think I'm not worried about taking the $33,000 great use for it. I just don't want it to be a free for all because I want to make sure that we fund the Connect program long term. We do have plans to get that upstream, a little bit more. Right, that answers.
That answers my question. Were there any other comments, questions?
Yeah, is thermal scientific the only, is this like the only manufacturer that makes a device for any other It's like, they pretty much don't get out.
From what I know, that's all I've seen, well, unless you know of another one.
This particular unit that Thermal Scientific provides is the only unit that does something. You know, there's things that it does do, and there are things that it doesn't do. Like I said, really, for what it does do, in my opinion, is significant to this officer safety, especially when it comes to stuff.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So there are no competitors to that manufacturer?
If there are, I don't have particular personal experience.
Yeah, we could not find it, and this is a sole source vendor for this technology as we found it.
I don't know how old this technology is.
The work is started by the relatively
We assume the crime lab is, you can have that. Right.
Well, and it's the handling. You wanna know right away,
Because that is the same.
with the additions.
Yeah,
Something
okay.
to the time lag is. Based on the log, and I don't know what the times are. One thing I can say is that if something is found, in the town of Black Lake, and the transport from the town of Black Lake, any of the townships in the county, any of the townships. Transport, this is the best thing I've seen, and we always say, hey, this is. And what we're, this is. So to mitigate.
The reason why, one of the reasons why we did the future, I don't know, this is overall. We kind of do a contact with the
Please do. Come on. All here.
No, I just wanted to say as well, when I 100% agree with this, and not only would it protect the officers, but it would protect the other.
Also, you use this as well.
No, we wouldn't use it, but with them utilizing it and us coming on the scene of a fatal, we're also protecting them.
That's all.
And we know what the extra.
if I could comment on that for a second. When I first was elected to become executive, I asked Cheryl to let me know on calls, and I did calls along the line to see one that scene, to see how we treat that scene in one overdose scene. An overdose scene that I went to, with Nick in their office. That environment, I mean, there are bags and things that and you never know, it doesn't take a lot of contact. So I completely agree with Cheryl. It puts everybody on the scene that goes out in their best interest above law enforcement. So that was very, I'm glad you spoke up.
Any other questions from the committee? Are you feeling comfortable? Okay. All right, so with that, we'll call for a vote. So all in favor of, the resolution to authorize the purchase of one TMARC handheld pilot analyzer and two TMARC solution kits for the sheriff's department to be funded from the opioid abatement account. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you. That closes this item 13. Moving to item 14, consideration vote special pay increase for, no, we don't need to do this, right? No, sorry. So I'm actually going to, we don't need to vote on. No.
I thought we needed to vote.
Okay, so hold on, and so let me introduce this around what we're talking about. And bring it to the agenda, to the floor, and then we can just have a discussion. So this is item 14, consideration vote special pay increase for casual call dispatcher. And there is a question right now, first of all, this needs to be done.
I talked to, Madam Chairman. About this, he, asked that I relay the vote to him, tomorrow morning about this particular item. It is going to be on Wednesday. So, I know it's a payroll, going to be addressed in the, study, the pay study, but it is not right now. There is not a budget impact in the sense of, costing this money. It actually saves us money in the long run. But he asked for, I'm concerned that we don't have a vote.
And I can tell you, I spoke with Director Puckett on this because there is a specific rule that was passed by the board in 2014, which says that this item does not need a vote if it is recommended by the HR director and approved by the county executive. I try to find that email. I know there was discussion about that.
Director Hoffman could say that. I think the chairman has to be for an advisory vote from the jurisdiction, even though the jurisdiction.
Oh. Well, given the discussion I had with Director Hobbit, there was no resolution put together because there was no need to have this vote. Because there's already something, there's an agenda item of it
We would need a resolution,
for a vote.
so,
Jim,
yes.
I move that we, approve, item number 14 by unanimous consent.
We can surely do that.
That'll settle
This whole, yeah, I'm there with you on that. So I'm gonna, okay, great. I was just gonna second, so thank you, Supervisor. Any discussion on this? No, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes.
Thank you.
Yeah. That closes item 14. Opening item 15, Sheriff's report.
Okay, so we did get a ruling on the inmates that for a few months ago, a medical issue due to years of daily age. Even though he's a young person, he died of daily age from long-term use. So I don't know how much more I can elaborate on that, but well, information on the COSIP grant application. That is a comprehensive opioid stimulant and substance abuse program that should fund us well. It's like a $1.3 million grant. We're actually this was talked about in Washington, D.C. We are one of the only, if the only, jail that is currently doing a mentoring program, the counseling program, or a recovery coach program, where we team up our addicts with a recovery coach. It's been successful. We have served along with our MAT program, that's the medically aided treatment program, and the peer response team, which is I just talked about, 95 inmates, 48 in-person visits, 108 phone calls from inmates, 14 successful connections to outside help, 3 transports directly from here to residential treatment, and 11 now either at a sober living facility upon release, 12 and 12 of 14 that were released still engaged in sobriety programs. So it's helpful. It's working. It's helpful. We have we're excited about the program. There are people that come back on a regular basis, and they're not. And that's telling us that the program is working. There is a link to our annual report, which is in front of you, as well as our use of post reports for the year of 2022. Please take time to look at them if you have any questions at all about either the report, the annual report, or use of force, please let me know. And our count today, 226 of that 18 are ES sanctions, so they are units that we are housing for the state. And there are 31 based on our GPS program. In the last 72 hours, we have booked in 37 and released 33. Any questions?
I have a question, but not on this, so I'll just, for appreciate no questions on the report. Any comments, questions? No? So I have a question, regarding the, just curious, the new ATF rule that was released, well, not so last month, on reclassification of certain firearms. Does the county get involved in that?
So are you talking about, yeah.
The reclassification of the pistols, the 16 inches and then the braces.
Yeah, well, we get, no, but what we get involved in is persons that purchase muzzle brakes or silencers or fully automatic. That's where we get involved.
Okay.
And then if there's a background check that is done, there is a called Form 4 that has to be filled out by the individual. There is a home visit that we do to make sure that whatever item they're purchasing, whether it's a muzzle brake or an automatic weapon, that the weapon is safe, then it's in a safe, over to the floor, et cetera, et cetera. We make sure that wherever it's at, when we do diligence, keep the item safe.
Okay. I had a few people contact me. I actually know how to answer the questions, so. Okay, that's a different version.
Right. Not, I have not had any inquiries regarding that. We do with, yeah, no inquiries.
Okay, so unfortunately, that's different government.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've not been asked, you know.
Okay. Were there any other questions for Sheriff Marks?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that. Oh, I'm sorry, Sheriff. For PNF on Wednesday. Yeah. Okay, that closes item 15. Opening item 16, public comments on non-agenda items from within the jurisdiction. Anyone who would like to comment on anything that JPS has to think about? No? Anyone on Zoom who would like to comment? Okay, we're going to close item 16. We're going to move into item 17. And this is discussion for input. And the next, actually, 17, 18, 19, are all areas of discussion for input. So, as a reminder, the process I want to spend some time discussing and thinking about it, deliberating it, moving it, and then coming back at the next meeting and actually considering it for vote. That way we can think through all of the, so let's see claims. So with that, I'm going to ask, does anyone have a comment for item 17? Which is creating county board rule 7.8 requiring the resolution and ordinances to be reviewed by the committee of jurisdiction prior to going to county board. Supervisor Paul.
Yeah. I basically just want to say that process is a big part of the process. Like procedure is a big part of the process. We see that at the federal level, we see it at the state level. and the powers of committee being protected. There was a certain resolution recently, that failed on two committees of the 20% of the board. I don't know. No serious other person. I think we need to codify a series of rules to make sure that the committees are respectful of the work that they do. And if there's a dispute, to have some form of discharge petition to be circulated to the board at large if the committees. I mean, there's another resolution earlier this year where a commission was debating something, the parent committee did not want that topic to be debated. And it took the intervention chairman even to the board to be able to consider that. So I think there needs to be some form. Because right now we just have this all due respect chairman, right now the only thing that we even have is the board. And we don't have any sort of formalized process to go forward with. So if the committee votes something down, responsible for that, what if the chairman says that? But I think there needs to be something here where the power of the committee, the ability to have say on pieces of legislation and if the board disagrees, that they have some form of, I guess, investment for the board. I don't know off the top of my head,
Well, I think for me, this is that first step, right? Actually, the first two here are really related. One deals with making sure that we have a process where if someone comes in, we understand that there are certain processes that happen, right? Versus just creating something and then whoever the chair is, inundate the chair with all sorts of resolutions and ordinances that haven't been discussed. And I know for me, I've seen a lot of discussions at board, and I've commented on people where great discussion, but should have been really a committee discussion, not a board discussion. And I think in part, not a lot of it, I think in part, that's the reason why we see committees go as long as they have. And I think anything that we can do to kind of help the process in general and help the chair. For the sake of you look, the chair gets like an extra $5,000, I think, or something like that. Like, no. I'm saying that you're probably getting paid, you know. No, but the point is that I do think that we need to have some common sense in that. So, Supervisor Isaac.
Yeah, I oppose this resolution. I wish to share 16 years of experience on the Winnebago County Board. Oftentimes, the committee of jurisdiction members are so affiliated for the subject that it's a slam dunk meeting. To avoid this from happening, we want to be able to bring a resolution directly to the county board without having to first get permission. The county board can decide if a committee of jurisdiction should chime in. And our board is not shy from referring back to committee a resolution that happens to go directly to the board. I mean,
It happens a lot.
I've seen this work for 16 years on this term.
If that had been the case, Supervisor Stafford, I would never have been able to bring my resolution forward. It went through proper channels. It came to the commission. We voted to dissolve. It went to the committee of jurisdiction who said, no, we want you to stay. It came back to us. We said we want to dissolve. It went back to them. And they said, not going to happen. It never would have come to the county board if somebody from the commission had not stepped forward.
And so that's why I have item number 18, which gives the ability for someone, because currently we have a rule, rule 18.
Actually, 7.1.
So that's, I'm sorry, that's 7.1, that gives the person, the supervisor, the right to bypass all.
It says, every written resolution shall be prepared in draft form and shall be as concise as possible, and shall have attached to it and the committee, commissioner, board, and or the name of the supervisors to produce it. So, to Supervisor Eisen's point, that's how, and to Supervisor Land's point, that would allow individual supervisors to bring resolutions forward.
Sure.
Okay. Supervisor Stack, I have another thing to say. I don't know how many of the new supervisors are aware of all of the steps involved in bringing a resolution to the board, and to have some education in that. I mean, I'm going through some serious civics lessons on this board, and to have had an education, it would have been very helpful.
Well, I agree with that, especially for all of the new people that have been on. And we talked a little bit about this last JPS, around just, per diem payments and all of that. Again, it actually, goes to the comment that, Corporation Council made about people understanding that they're not vetting the background information, whereas they're only vetting the actual resolution, which is to resolve or if it's employment. That kind of thing probably isn't true, as well as the steps in the process. And then there are others who will abuse it. So we have that too,
But to know the proper steps is really important, because I live in a family where ethics are pretty high standard. And if I'm not doing it according to the rules of the game, then I get chastised. And I'll tell you what, my family is not fun being chastised.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, definitely some sort of education. Maybe something like that. Yeah, I was, fresh supervisor myself, and I didn't really know how to go through these things. So I kind of fumbled about quite a bit. So I think that, some sort of education is going to help. I know that, with the current powers as is, I mean, it's up to, it all depends on who we elect as chair, and it also depends on what supervisors do as well. And I know that, we always prefer to go through the committee process, because that's our focus group. That's essentially, it's the focus group where we get to talk specifically on a particular resolution. So I think that, flies as well. I mean, necessarily, just ready and willing to just simply look at some sort of additional legislation in order to help. But I think that there's constantly some further education, simply because we have so many new supervisors. this is kind of a little bit different for Winnebago. You got maybe, some terms you get a handful of new supervisors and then get this is one where we have a lot of new supervisors, so it just pushes you up and up, right?
Yeah, and I would expect this next one to also have a lot of these people who they decide this isn't for them. So I expect it to probably have them on a while from several months.
Right.
So just a question since we have the people in the room. So from a corporation counsel, from the chair point of view, would be an appetite? Number one, does it make sense to do it? I know, like, for and would there be an appetite to have some sort of training or presentation, maybe at the next special order meeting or something like that on this?
It won't be at the next special order.
You mean tomorrow?
Well, how could there be training if there's no resolution? In other words,
I'm saying is more of so we had that initial training when everyone started with theory for on the goal. Great. And please correct me if a very simple presentation. Okay. Here's the difference between a resolution and where people don't know that. This is how you build a resolution. This is what corporation counsel needs to do a resolution. As an example, we just want to say, hey, corporation counsel, make me a resolution on this topic. You have to actually do some work. This is where you say, and when the background stuff comes in, whereas that's on you, not us. And we want to the committees before you go to the board, like that whole process. I'm not saying that this should happen like in the next month or two, but does it make sense to do, and is there an appetite to do something?
I would say, just in my role, for example, maybe it's for the more seasoned supervisors. I think supervisors think, well, I've got to get 36 votes. And if I get in front of the committee, it's not going to be cold turkey at the county board meeting. People will have heard this. But again, to Supervisor Moran's point and Supervisor Eisen's point, rules do allow for a supervisor to basically go around that, and they do it at their own risk. So I don't know who would be proper for me as my counsel to say, well, you should do this.
No, I'm just looking for your opinion.
And I'm going to say that I got a call from Mary Ann saying, hey, have you done your homework? And I did not find that as something that was saying, you're really being dumb here. I found it as an education. Make sure that you are clear on your facts. And that was really critical to me. It was important to know that my facts were in line.
I understand where Mary Ann's coming from, and understand where Paul's coming from. I know Brian had him on the floor where he brought his own in, so I don't know if you can really say, no, you can't. I'm going to pick on Brian right now with the marijuana thing. He wouldn't gotten any place, and I don't know if he's going on anyways on the floor, but at least he'd have a chance getting in front of the other 35 supervisors. Other than what was just done up until August, he wouldn't even have a chance if he couldn't get this on the floor by himself. If he had to wait for the whole committee to go ahead and go along with this. I mean, this time he got that far, but like last time, it didn't get passed at all. And Paul's brought some very interesting things in also that would never get passed unless he brought them in. And maybe they won't get them passed, but at least they go ahead and get their point across. Some listen to them, some don't. But they do have to agree. If you can have the, whether it's the committee or you have people that will sign on with you, it's much better because the people will look and say, hey, these people here are already on with you, they'll go along with you, and have the people talk about it. Some people sign on just to get their name on there. That's the big thing. That don't really help. I mean, if they're not gonna support you and say, hey, I agree with Paul, this should be done, why shouldn't we do this or that or the other? You know, if they just sit in the background and we do all the work, Paul, we'll sign on with it, sure, so we get our name on there. That don't make any work, or any sense, so, I have a hard time just saying leave the whole committee, as much as I would like to say, yes, I think it should go to a committee, and Mary Ann and I talked about this, but I would like to say the whole committee maybe should be put on, but down deep, I really don't think that it can work out.
Well, I do wanna stop this, so, yeah.
Just a quick thought, just to kind of work out this. Instead of taking away a supervisor, we can directly to the board. So that's still being included, but the rules around certain events, let's say something is stuck in. And the board has an opportunity to pull it out of the committee and then bring it directly to the board. And then instead of saying, hey, you still have an opportunity to do something like the rules about that are directly possible to the board to see fit, they still want to have I don't really know how that would work, I think it's some kind of middle ground, if you will, but that would require more workshopping. I know that if the supervisor takes the whole eight, he brings something directly to the board, but at the same time, you know, not going to do it. But that ping pong around committee, so instead, you know, instead of trying to think about the 41 months, would be one place that the board says, okay, you know, the extension of the company.
How would you affect?
That's the meeting time. So it may be more complicated than what before. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking.
Okay, no, it's a good thought, so I think, so, we're gonna actually end. So why don't we, have more discussion about this at a future time? Feel like there's something that should be done, we should do something. What that thing is, if it's education, if it's more of a process, I think that yet could be discussed. But at this point, I think I think we're going to, end discussion of that. As well as item 18 and, corporation council, I'm gonna actually, push item 19 to a different time as well. We're gonna talk about definition. And it's just, I'm mindful of time. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So are we going to discuss?
We're gonna go to item 20.
So our 18 and 19.
We're done.
Now we'll deal with it some other time.
We will deal with, 18 and 19 at a different. In fact, I'd like to bring up 19 at the next. That board discussion. Yeah, it's in March. That'll be another half hour. We get to a point where we're not.
But 18 is not even, that's not going to be much.
No.
That's fine.
Okay, so we're clear from a committee point of view on 14, 17 and 18 and 19. For now. And we are now moving on to item number 20 on the agenda, item 20. Opening, and that is ad hoc task force to review committee structure and establish membership, beginning with the 2024 term. And this goes back to resolution 35442022. So here is the quick points, so we all have to remember. So this was introduced to the board in April. I believe. It was then referred back, another, as I mentioned, Another one of the referred, the way it was referred is that we would do a workshop and bring some information forward and bring that back to the board. Which we did, so we had that workshop, we definitely did a great job of pulling all those resources together. And then, we also did a report out to, the county board, various reports. I think that probably did that. And then we kind of said, okay, now what? Right? And, had a conversation with the chair on that and said, you know, there's appetite for this committee to establish a task force to really build that recommendation. And, that, thumbs up that this committee can absolutely really do. So with that, I'm going to need to guidance from our experts here on this. Is this something that we can take that resolution over, or do we have to issue a new resolution to establish this task force? Like, what is the proper procedure?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address this issue.
Yes.
I've served since 2006 on the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors. With no glitch in committee, commission, or board operation. Is there a reason to change the complexion of our committee, commission, and board arrangement? Has the system of existing committee, commission, and boards failed in some way to establish policy? Is there some compelling and overriding factor to lead us to change our way of doing business? The overview of the Winnebago County Committee structure identifies mandated committees. We have all that apply to our Winnebago County. What need is there to rehash what is settled practice? I perceive this as an academic practice without also revamping the size of our county board. The easiest reduction would be to 18, combining two districts into one. The most compelling is to downsize to 28, which represents the average size of the 10 most populous counties in Wisconsin. Quite candidly, when you survey the literature of studies conducted on Winnebago County government in the last 35 years, you must conclude that the board size reduction is a prerequisite to committee overhaul. 1987 Arthur Yellowstone, November 1990 Task Force, October 3rd, 2001 Winnebago County Exploration Committee, 2007 Personnel Function Review Committee. I'm not surprised that this issue comes up again, because it has come up at least 4 times. And the literature of the National Northwestern is replete with commentaries relevant to each of those published reports. I don't see where you're going with this. If you don't downsize the county board, why would you want to have to reshuffle the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I definitely see maybe there is a little bit of higher possibly looking at creating a committee to put that right size in the committees for our Winnebago County. At the same time, I do see that, this thing is all about committee right size. It's not even necessarily about downsizing, it's about right size. How many, what is the proper amount of committees that we could have? Now, is there a reason, why we're doing this? I think honestly, in my personal opinion, this should be something that we should implement every 5 or 6 years. Have another task force, take a look at, do we need this committee? Have things evolve. You know, if the things evolve, maybe we don't need, we can dissolve that committee. We could absorb that department and bring it over to this, committee. So my personal opinion, this should be something that should be done every 5 or 6 years. We have to constantly be looking at how our government, our local government is, are we being efficient? Are we not being efficient? There's always this ongoing joke about how our government just is constantly fighting these things like that. So, to this point, I mean, we could, we very much might create that ad hoc task force today. And the ad hoc task force could, taking a look at everything, ultimately conclude, no, this is the right amount of committees that we have. And then we do nothing about it. But I still think that even if we do not downsize any committees or dissolve any committees, I still think it's very much worth every single amount of every single minute that we put into investigating this, just to make sure that we're actually being as efficient as we can for the. So I'm very much in favor of establishing an ad hoc task force, and get this required to establish every 6 years.
I just hear what Supervisor Isaac is saying here in Egan, and Supervisor definitely is saying. I think it's important to have the discussion, and as Supervisor definitely said, it may very well come back to no changes. It is not my impression by doing this ad hoc that we necessitate a change, just to take a look at it. We could find cost savings. We could find better efficiency. So just looking at it and discussing it, I think it's paramount.
Supervisor Plum? Yeah, we had Curtis on the WCA last summer. We did a presentation about the event board and how it's very similar to their community structure. And just looking at this, Waukesha has 7, Town has 6, Christie has 6, Congo has 5, and even has 3. I mean, looking at this list, we have only 100 communities, and there can be efficiencies found there in terms of finding people in those communities, in terms of communities. Outside of the city of Oshkosh, there's a review every 5 years on their communities. We're running that right now. And so I don't see a reason why we shouldn't. We can do at the next census, one of the sites between 5 and 105, but I think right now we have the opportunity to look at the committee as they can and say, hey, what can we learn this from their identity? What can they become money to do? What do them cost money? And we're going to go ahead and make the best of it we can. I'm all for this. I don't see there's a reason why we shouldn't do this. I have to try to have a good right. I think we should have to move.
So, my thoughts on the matter is, I sat through the presentation, read the materials, and I do feel there's a compelling argument to be made to at least look at this. You go back to the pioneers of Edward Dennis, for instance. He talks about there's a fallacy out there. Well, there's nothing to be fixed because you never looked at it. So it feeds to itself. How in the world can you know that everything is working at peak performance when you never look under the hood? And that is Deming's idea, that we need to continually look at, are we doing an ask itself? Are we doing things the right way? And so I am emphatically supportive of us making sure that we are spending our resources as effectively and as efficiently as possible. And I actually, I wholeheartedly would Supervisor Duffy, this should be an ongoing thing. I would say shame on us as a board to look at this. It was here for the downsizing. It was about downsizing. It wasn't about making things run better. It wasn't about, and I asked a lot of questions. It really just was about, well, we don't need to move. The argument was never made on what the benefit was to the public, in my opinion. And that's why it didn't pass. And I think we need to also move away from this idea that these have to work hand in hand. One of the questions I asked, Mr. Curtis, was, do these things have to happen in tandem? Meaning, can you change the board size and keep the committee structure, or the other way around? And his answer was absolutely yes. And I think he used Ozaki as the example. So I do believe that there's enough here for us to take a look at. And so I also do support this entirely. With the one stipulation that who's ever on this has to look at this with an open mind. Absolutely. If we have someone on this task force who already made up their mind, then that's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. And I am not into wasting money. We're all busy people. We all have things going on. So if we're going to dedicate resources to something, then we're going to do it the right way. And we're going to have diligence, and we're going to make sure that whatever decisions that are made and recommendations that are made are substantiated, regardless of how you feel. And I hope that can translate into something that is beneficial for people to do so. So, yes.
Well,
Very briefly.
it's a quick one, Ron. Oh, excuse me, Supervisor Stafford. It is, I think it behooves everyone to get out of their comfort zone. We have to start to think in different ways, and it has to.
So with that, what is our next step here in terms of process?
So in terms of process, the resolution 3504-202 was authored by Supervisor Sarah. And then the whole board voted to refer it to Judiciary for consideration. Judiciary has considered it, and now essentially wants to have an ad hoc task force for new committee structure and establish the beginning of 2024 term. I think, and too bad Supervisor is here, is not here, I don't know if she's on the Zoom. But given the fact that you were tasked by the board looking at this, but again, this is Supervisor Sarah's resolution. What I would suggest is perhaps we reference the judiciary changes in red. So we put under respectfully submitted to Shannon and Sarah, then you put judiciary in it. Let's say in red, with the changes, you would have a full resolution. So that the board could see, these are judiciary recommended changes based on judiciary being asked to look into this. And the changes would be presumably, as you said, you know, suppose I had ad hoc structure review committee, you want to call it an ad hoc task force. And I'm just looking at that.
Right. So would we have, that's the question, would we have to go back to the board to establish that task force, or can the committee itself just decide it?
I believe we have to go back. Because again, we go back to the board saying please look at this, and then JPS saying, okay, JPS voted, quote, to establish a JPS workshop to identify the need for the structure change. We've done that.
Yes.
So then, this resolution still is out there, it hasn't been voted. Right, because it was referred to judiciary, so there's no, it's still in the winds.
So do we have to clear this? And then that gives us the. Yes.
I don't know why they'd have to go back if it's been voted on before. They're still looking into this. There's nothing been decided. What can they bring back to decide? They're still doing the task force on it. Also, they didn't look at the film and talk to the gentleman.
Okay, so, well, aren't they wanting to create an ad hoc, well, see, they're wanting to create an ad hoc task force,
That is correct.
beginning with the 2024 term.
Correct.
And membership, and again, according to Supervisor Sarah, the ad hoc structure review shall consist of 5 limited county supervisors. So you would say beginning at the 2024 term, I mean, essentially, you were trying to amend this. Is that fair to, is that what the judiciary is trying to do?
In part, but the other part is this calls for the county board chair to establish this.
Yeah.
We would, as a committee, establish this working task force to build a recommendation.
So that goes against what the law has intent of, at least at that time.
Right.
Yes. If we decide to indefinitely postpone this and go in our own direction. Is that, like, basically, we clear this off our books and say, since we have committed to the board structure of something, we'll just go ahead and do it.
Essentially, we're doing the same thing. But we're changing something and that membership starts effective 24, is that substantially different? I don't think so. And then you're changing, you're saying judiciary would be the one that would decide membership as opposed to the chair. And that's a change.
And we say, we understand this and we kind of use it as a reference. But we can act on it. Because basically what if we don't amend this negates our going back. Because this is so bad.
And you're the ones who are supposed to look at this.
And to Chair's point, the legal point, we are. This is, you know, the idea that this we will establish this task force to look at.
So if you're establishing a task force to look at it, you do not have to go back to the board because the board said to you, you need to look.
Okay.
At it. There's no question in my mind about that.
Right.
But if you're then
ad hoc task force, is that what's hanging you up?
well, I'm concerned because the author of this, I mean, we're changing some of the intent of what presumably the author wanted. That's my concern.
So
That's what she's saying.
And how would you feel if you had a resolution and it was assigned to a committee? And true, I mean, Supervisor Sarah, I guess, was there, and maybe she just stepped away. An argument could be made, well, wait a minute, you're undermining what I want.
Right. It's
That's
not
what
a
I'm just-
personal shot at all. It's just a process. That if this is essentially, this trumps everything else because it's still pending, because we still haven't brought this back to the board. Right? If we decided we want to establish an ad hoc task force on the structure because we are a committee of jurisdiction, over the rules of the county board in Maple. And just either vote this down or postpone it or find a way to clear it off of our docket. She could also pull it, right?
So that,
Well,
can she pull the referred,
it was referred.
so now
So now
it's
the
not
county
heard?
board-
And that's what I'm asking the question. Whatever we do, I want to make sure that we're doing the correct process here.
Right.
So we don't cause any issues as we go along. That's why I want to have this conversation, to make sure that we're all on the same page.
So the only changes, and I know we would have to look line by line to make sure we are not, but the main changes are number one, okay, they get a task force, which I don't think is a big deal, whether it's a task force or a structure review. And so there's a task force, except, again, the committees are appointed by the county board chair.
So clear that up, what would happen if I just bumped in 5?
No point.
Well, that's what she said, and that's the chair's appointment, or 5 bumped in 5.
So we as a committee could recommend to chair here are the members. And
Yeah.
I could say,
Yeah, you have to-
so we can approve this and then as a body, submit name.
Yeah.
Or I as a chair could submit name, maybe that's small over to the chair and say, here's what I would recommend for membership. And then at the next county board, we would, right? And then that's off the races.
But you want to do this in 24, you don't want to do this for 24.
Well, we're, no, now to affect. Right, that's exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at this time. Anything that we recommend would be recommended starting in the fall. Right, but we have to start now. Right, thank you. Thank you. Because.
What is in line for your task, I mean, your mission? Because the board specifically said judiciary, please look into this. And so,
So we will vote on this. This is what I'm thinking, please. We'll vote on this.
now on this,
On the resolution, so we can clear it off, 35,
okay,
for 2022. And then I will submit recommendations. And then county board chair, Egan will. Right side.
If and or but, in other words, maybe instructor, maybe not, yes or no.
No, it's just the recommendations.
Right.
That's the one with the board.
And so, yeah, the board has to decide this. This will be the recommendation of the board would act against.
so this is still in process.
So, again. So, I think that's a good.
I mean, it looks like it, I mean, it just simply says we will resolve. And we create this. Existing. I think we want to, if we do establish this. At some point, we should probably make sure that this ad hoc task force, meets soon, so that we can actually have, they can actually get business done and have everything decided. So this isn't something that, I fully expect that, that Egan will be appointing someone pretty quickly. But it's just a matter of us, a matter of that task force to actually get together and meet and start focusing. Get them have the renovated rules so that, actually have something completed by, 2024. We have to talk about, and we can actually look, into action. So, I'm not exactly sure what, if there's any verbiage we should use But, I do think that we should. If you pass this, I just really want to, make sure that they, that this.
So to that question, if I'm gonna have but let's say we vote on it, let's say it passes. When would the earliest be? Assuming that means will be supplied, is it, we have to wait till the next form? This just happens as soon as you, this will happen in days.
I know they have to be approved by the county board, the names do. Always got approved.
Well,
Any commission at a point, always got to get approved by the board, so.
But we have time yet.
Right, you do.
Yeah.
Right, so it'd be the end of February, when that meeting there,
Yeah.
we can get their name on there, and they.
and just to, I mean, you all know, you're not working with a blank slate, because Jay Curtis, the example, Mike Howard gave the example, so yes, there's a lot to do. You know, it's not as if you're starting with a place, but yeah, sooner than later, because in county government, there's always emergencies that come up.
Right.
Yeah. But there's gonna be meetings, well, there's tomorrow, but then there's February 28th, and then there's March 7th, right? There's a special order on March 7th. Okay,
That would be a regular one.
Oh,
Tomorrow night is one that's called special, tomorrow would be a regular.
oh, I see. Okay. So with that, let's do it. So I move to approve, well, or to consider resolution 35-042022. Second? Any conversation on that motion? I have to change to the next agenda. This is only able to focus on one item. Is that what you're saying? Is that correct? We can't run it.
no, I said, because it seemed like we were gonna start getting involved with the dams. And not only that, committee structure, specifically, there was a resolution that said you don't need a majority to vote to change committee structure. But per diems are not committee structure, so they're during the term, you need a two-thirds vote.
We discussed this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so, we're in discussion. I do have an amendment that I'd like to, put out there, so motion for amendment on line 25. Currently, the line starts, committee shall consist of 5 Winnebago County board supervisors. I do want to add, after committee. So it would say committee. Or, I'm sorry, I'm going to strike out committee and plug in task force. Because there's a lot of committee language there. Task force for committee structure beginning with the 2024 term. That consists in the law continue. So what I'm doing is I'm changing committee to task force and adding for structure beginning with 2024. So read that one more time. I'll read the whole thing. I'll actually do the whole resolution. By then be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that the ad hoc structure review task force for structure beginning with 2024.
Committee structure or structure?
Committee structure. Committee structure. beginning with 2024. So let me repeat that one time. By the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that the ad hoc structure review task force for the committee structure beginning with 2024 shall consist of 5 Winnebago County Board of Supervisors appointed by the Winnebago County Board Chair. Can you give me that? There are a fair amount of people who are concerned that this is going to be immediate. And who need to do that. Any discussion on that amendment? Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay.
Might we want to reflect that in this?
Yes.
So we're going to do a motion for the.
Yes. So I move to get amendments on line 3 of the new title. Okay, I move to line 3 to replace committee, the first committee, with task force. So it reads, create an ad hoc structure task force to review committee structure in Winnebago County, and then I'm going to add, beginning with the 2024 term. So it reads, create an ad hoc structure review task force to review committee structure in Winnebago County, beginning with the 2024 term. And the second, any discussion on that too? Right? With none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, now we're back to the motion, or to the resolution. Discussion, is there any additional discussion? No? Okay, so all in favor of resolution 35042022, create an ad hoc structure review task force to review committee structure in Winnebago County, beginning with the 2024 term. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay.
Can I just ask one question? When I put this together, shall I put the changes in red so that the entire board sees what the changes were?
And then separately, the chair can ask this committee to supply recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
Yes. Yep. Okay. I want to make sure that we're clear on that, so there's no more questions going forward.
Well, actually, there are no specific, I mean, I know that was
No.
understanding, but there's no.
That's the understanding, that's what I'm saying, that's the understanding. Okay. All right. That closes item number 20. 21, discussion, consider reforming the per diem structure for the county board as part of the task force discussion. So that was submitted from me, provided load, was provided in Order. Well, there it is. And Supervisor Green. So I'm opening this up for election. I don't think the news that we can, in terms of that, how fast or if we want to talk to it, we're going to do. We have a second discussion. I'm just gonna put this off. This started, the conversation between Supervisor Berger and I. When we sat down with Jake for this last summer, we talked about something called the freedom statute and the ability to self-organize. And I have this for the materials here from the WHM about self-organization statute number 8. And it will show that there's a number of things that counties do in terms of how they organize their county boards. And so I also spoke last year with Chairman Stafford about self-organizing compensation structure. And instead of going straightforward, full steam ahead of whatever change it, I figured it would be nice to have some sort of study committee or task force about that. Supervisor Holmberger, we spoke earlier last month and we decided to introduce this. The original idea was to have this mixed in with the task force committee structure. I understand that may not be possible. I had a number of conversations with corporation counsel and with county office. If that's not possible, I understand. I still want to have this discussion. I think reflecting in access per diem days, something has to be done about weekly forms, about the per diem, where we have to do some reforms that will still reflect the whole change looking forward, including the benefit while still reforming the pension process to either a flat baseline or provisions or something else that is you want that. So I know Supervisor Order has a couple of words about this. He wanted to get involved because of whether or not he has jurisdiction over this is one question or another. I don't think we do, but this is something that we wanted to connect to. So I will give the rest of my time to her to speak up. Yeah, I will. Let's keep it.
Okay. I signed on with this. I came to for this because I did see all the discrepancies with the per diem and so forth. Here, let me explain. Also, written something down. But explained it so well. I feel that on the board there's just so many discrepancies, and I wanted to put this with the committee structure because I feel that they do know things. I don't know how much will get changed with the committee structure. You know, if people were compensated, I mean, I would think the two go hand in hand, but I understand now, listening to you with the 2/3 of the majority vote on how that works. I don't know if that gives you a pass if you could combine with those once again, efficiency standard that we're trying to fix in the committees and with the per diem. I understand your concerns also with this. It just seems, as of recently seeing all these access of per diem, it's abused quite often. I mean, more often than it should. You know, and the fact that we're having to pay for it and then approve it a year later, these overdose. Anyway, that's kind of my point with that. And with the PNS, I think that it probably would go through there also because it's paying for the budget. And I can imagine supervisor talks about wanting to look at this also.
Yes.
I will point out to the committee that with the recodification, we are looking, obviously, at the whole code, including the section that addresses reviews. 1.12. And again, we're going to be having meetings in 3 months. Simply that has to be cleaned up. reference to attending meetings, a suggestion would be, well, there should be attendance by authorized meetings. In other words, just be, the way it's crafted right now, a supervisor can attend as many meetings as they want and put in for meetings. So there's going to be some, hopefully, clarification with the code, but that's not undermining the.
No, and I'll be honest, I see those as they can work together. I absolutely see this working together. But you can't compare those either, because one, the application really looks at the structure of the. That's it. You can't look beyond that because we're not currently a self-organized county, so we have to do. I believe that from what we're understanding is this committee is would be looking at it from a much more broader perspective. And would be looking at it for being the right way versus other options and sort of one in the mix. And part of that work would have to be initiating the process for self-organizing. Understanding. However, that's not part of the process. So there's a different level, when you consider the two. So then, I don't know if it's necessarily apples to apples either. My question would be, what is the pathway here?
And once again, it's similar to the community structure where we're looking at all these different avenues. It doesn't have to be one way or the other, that stuff, because there are so many inefficiencies within our pay structure and how things apply.
Right, so the way I kind of see this
That's
is
the
that
intent.
the end, so the end point would be some sort of resolution.
Mhm.
And that endpoint resolution, assuming that there's suggestions that go beyond reclassification, because this task force could assume that those basic changes would be made as part of the reclassification. That's what I say. I see that there's some work that can be done for that. But the endpoint would be a resolution, and as a part of that would have to list the jurisdictions of the different committees that would have to actually consider it.
Well, the rule, there's a whole section on rule B. So presumably it would be.
Well, that's, I agree, but there, to the point that was made, this might have to go through a process with even after others, depending on the, it could be budgetary impact, maybe, well, I don't know, maybe not. I mean, it might be the same amount of money that is giving you up. One second, I think that you have anything. Oh, actually, oh, okay, Supervisor Isaac, please.
Thank you. When you're talking about per diem, you're talking about the cost of operating the county board with the supervisor. Now, if you compare the cost of operating the Winnebago County Board compared to the Allegheny County Board, our cost is about 50% of theirs. We have 36 supervisors. We also have 36. But the cost of operating the board is about that. I don't know where you want to be going with looking at the per diem, except if you want to raise the per diem, that might be it.
So that's my comments on that. Yeah, the nature of what we're talking about. That basically, if we're doing a task force, I would not vote in good conscience on a pay increase for the county board. I can't do that. What I want to do is to make sure that we iron out the efficiencies for people who use it more. Can we do something else? And if we can't do anything else to save money, we can't. But I don't think anybody who is sponsoring this or co-sponsoring this is trying to do something anyways. I don't think that's trying to happen.
Well, you know, I've been around here for a little more than a decade. Okay, and every time there was a concern or an issue of raising the per diem, it was always something that was done by and shied away from by the county board members because they were afraid to expend additional funds for that raise. It was ultimately raised from $25 for a committee meeting to $50. It was ultimately raised from $50 for a county board meeting to $75. And that was with quite some pain over the years. But we're still 50% operating at 50% of the cost of our daily county. They have a very high overhead for the administrative office of the chairman of the board.
Supervisor Duffy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I definitely, will be, interested to see what, we do decide to create this task force out for the structure, what they would have to say on this, because, that's one thing that, Curtis brought up in regards to the adoption policy, that since they went down to 8 essentially, they went down to 5 committees, they then, at that point, they changed their pay structure. Instead of having a per diem, they just simply went with, just a monthly pay. And, of course, there's the whole question of this potentially mean that some of these supervisors could just simply not attend any of these board meetings instead of paid. And, his response was, well, yes, that is that, there's that real risk. However, usually at the end of every year, they actually post publicly the appointments of all supervisors. And in a way, it was almost, you don't really want to call it the wall of shame, but I guess it kind of was a wall of shame for those that just decided not to attend these meetings. I was like, exactly. Yeah. So, and so, and this task force in regards to per diem structure, if they decide to just simply do away with it, or something, perhaps maybe they can look into things like maybe do just an annual inflation adjustment of percent, or maybe not do that at all. But that's the whole point of this particular task force. To have that discussion and have all the supervisors come in, and then the task force will consider all of their points, all of their viewpoints, and make a final recommendation. And I like the fact that it says this task force will automatically disband. So that just there's the incentive to get this done fast. So I plan to work.
The reason that I'm supporting this as well is because, granted, less than a year as a supervisor, but within the first 30 to 60 days, I heard from other supervisors concerned about this, as well as seeing posts on social media and direct contact with people in the county. So I am absolutely open for discussion.
Okay, any additional discussion on this item? Okay, so, we're gonna vote on the resolution, establish an ad hoc task force on the community structure and whether the county board supervisor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
One yea, 4 ayes, passes. I have a question. So this directs me to establish the numbers of this ad hoc. Is there a process in which I have to follow to do so? Or is there something like this?
I use a level.
Whatever we do, I want to make sure, you know, I just want to make sure that whatever I do is the right way.
And
So,
will JPS also be submitting this to my order for JPS for the one, that's not just calendar before the
no, I think.
Yes, Supervisor.
Yeah. If you're going to, end this, ad hoc task force April 1st, 2024, if you want the results of this task force to be available for the new incoming county board, you gotta do that before December.
No, yeah, agreed.
You gotta get it all done before December.
Well taken. Yes, agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be in.
So. Okay. So you're gonna,
I would the process.
okay,
I do,
okay.
but then the question is, you want JPS also to do it? This is the full vote. I mean, we have 2 of the 5.
Yeah. I'm saying no. I don't like to put something that's in the committee where the whole committee is on board. The committee voted, but and that's it stands. Right?
Sounds right, yeah.
Okay. If you can let me know soon. Because this is another one where we're gonna want to. This one more so. Okay, that closes item 21. We're gonna have fun with this. Okay, item 22 is full session.
Someone has to literally move the word, move to some extent.
Okay.
Roll call.
Okay. Okay, hold no, hold.
I think you went to the bathroom.
So we'll take, you know, oh, he's all after we close the door.
You guys can stay.
Supervisor can stay. Okay. Let's wait for the phone.
He's not on. Yeah, and once you guys do the motion, I gotta turn Zoom off.
Okay.
And he is not on Zoom, and I think when that interruption happened during your report, he might have got kicked out.
I cannot risk, because I am risk averse, I cannot risk having any. This can be a warning. Negotiation, so.
But this is gonna get turned off completely and I'm out of the room.
Well, I'm not concerned about you, I'm concerned about anyone on Zoom like Fox 11.
Yeah. The 2 that are on there are that's me, and then the other 2 are news sites. So
For both sections, they have to be.
They have to be off.
yeah, the whole thing's gonna be gone.
Okay.
Once, soon as you go into closed section, I'll turn it off.
The only way I can get John Brady on is by literally calling him on my phone. Because there's no landline in here.
Yeah.
And then if there are any questions, hopefully, we can. This should be very, this is just a quick update.
Okay.
So you're gonna start by saying, I move pursuant to.
Okay. I have it right here, yes. Item number 22, I move pursuant to section 19.85, sub 1, sub G, Wisconsin statutes. At this point of the meeting, the board shall consider a motion to convene into closed session for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental bodies who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved as it relates to Snell Road landfill, notice of claim or groundwater down from the back. Oh, and what?
And so more we need to take.
Oh, roll call. Okay. So now I need to do. Okay.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we are closing, item number 24. Next meeting date is Monday, March 6th at 6 p.m. The agenda items are due February 20th. 2023, request city week. Closing 24 and, 25 looking for the German. Second. Second, and all in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? All right, carries.